Welcome back to The Score. Tonight, the Auburn men's basketball team will take the court in Nashville looking for their 10th straight win. The Tigers are up to number 13 in the AP poll and will face a Vanderbilt team that is yet to come up with an SEC victory. Joining us now to preview the matchup further is writer for the Auburn Observer, Justin Ferguson. Good morning, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for your time today. Let's start with the Tigers. They're red hot after their 93-78 win over LSU. What do you make of this winning streak overall?
Yeah, it's really impressive because not only have they won 9 straight, they've won 9 straight by double digits. And this is a time in college basketball where a lot of teams are losing to unranked teams. There were, I think it was 6 of the top 8 last week in the country lost. Quite a few others that were ahead of Auburn. And the fact that Auburn just keeps winning the way they do is pretty impressive because this is an Auburn team that, continues to just play their style. And it's a very unique style, I would say, in modern, major college basketball because it's a team that plays 10 or 11 deep. It's really good offense. It's really good defense. There's a lot of balance. Nobody's really the breakaway superstar on this team. It could be somebody any night. And, that is what's really impressive about this Auburn team is that, they can match up very well against a wide variety of teams because, it's harder for teams to kind of prepare for a group like that. So it is really impressive what they're doing, especially, like I said, when you take it into the context that, a lot of really good teams in college basketball are falling to unranked teams right now.
You mentioned the depth. That's been a huge part of this year's team success. You got a great article up on how this bench may be the strongest in the country. Can you take us inside some of the numbers you found?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at just D1 games against, games against D1 opponents, no bench in the country has scored more points per game than Auburn. Additionally, Auburn has a rotation where they're 6 through 10 in their rotation, so they're backups to their starters. When they're on the floor together, they're the highest rated lineup in all of college basketball. It's kind of crazy because when they get into the game, it's when the other team's starters are starting to wear down a little bit. It's when the other team's bench is starting to get into the game, and they're just not as efficient. They're not as good at playing together as this crew is. It's a great defensive lineup when you look at guys like Katie Johnson, Trey Donaldson, Chad Baker-Mazar, just really aggressive guys that, forcing steals, getting easy offense on the other end of the floor. And it's at the heart of what makes this team so good is that, they don't have a drop-off from their starters to their bench. And so when other teams have to, play a guy 30, 35 minutes a game, or when they have to go to their bench, they don't feel as confident with their offense or their defense, Auburn feels just as good. I mean, this is a team that plays 10 or 11 deep, and they feel like they could run any combination of those 10 or 11 guys out there and have an effective starting 5. It's at the core of what Bruce Pearl does. Like I said, it's not for everybody. Not every college basketball team plays this way, but this team has really bought into it. And the result is a bench that, it is the most effective and the most efficient bench unit in the entire country.
I think we definitely have to give a tip of the cap for that to Bruce Pearl. He's found transfer players that have bought in. He's gotten young talent that stepped in right away. I'm thinking of, Aiden Holloway. He's also been keeping the upperclassmen that he's recruited happy. What can you say about the job Bruce Pearl's done with this year's team?
It's amazing because, Bruce Pearl has a team and a culture that is very, counterintuitive to what you see in modern college basketball. I mean, he's very honest with his guys up front and says, hey, you're not going to play 35 minutes a night for me. You're not going to get all the shots that you want. You're going to have to share playing time. You're going to have to share minutes with another guy. And if you're willing to do that, we think we can make a pretty fun, pretty effective team out of it. But you got to be able to, to buy into it. And so, I've described this team this year as kind of the ultimate Bruce Pearl team in that he's always wanted to play a deep rotation. He's always wanted to share the ball. He's always wanted to have guys, everybody contribute and compete. But this team, there's no Jabari Smith. There's no Walker Kessler on this team. There's no, first-round NBA talent. Their strength is that they are 10 and 11 deep. And it takes a special group of guys to buy into that because I look at a guy like Jalen Williams, who is in his 5th year. He could have easily transferred somewhere else and gotten more playing time. didn't have to share. Trey Donaldson, who's had a really, really, really good run here as the backup point guard for Auburn. When Aiden Holloway came in, he could have easily gone somewhere else and said, you know what, I'm not going to compete with the 5-star. So I think Pearl deserves a lot of credit for not only finding guys that fit his culture and buy into it, but also scouting dudes. You look at this team, you've got Chad Baker-Mazar, who's arguably the best player that Auburn's had in this winning streak with his stats. He played junior college ball last year. Chaney Johnson came from Division II. You've had a variety of guys that have been 3rd, 4th, 5th-year players that weren't, 5-stars coming out of high school. So it is a really, really it's a great testament to not only the development, but also just the talent, recognition, scouting that Bruce Pearl and this team has. And he's found the right dudes to play the way that he wants to play.
Not only have the buy-in, but to have the humility to do that, but then still keep that fire. And I think you can see both those things in Bruce Pearl as well. He certainly has implemented a lot of those attitudes into his team as well. All right, let's turn to the matchup this evening. On paper, it's a game that Auburn should just run away with. But what do the Tigers need to do to focus on making it 10 wins in a row?
Yeah, this is a Vanderbilt team that usually gives Auburn a hard time. I mean, last season they Vanderbilt beat Auburn on a buzzer beater at the end. Ezra Mannion, who is a really good scoring guard for them, was the guy who had that buzzer beater. He's had a pretty good season despite the fact that just Vanderbilt is a team not quite as talented as we've seen in the past. But, Bruce Pearl was talking to us the other day, and he said, hey, this is a team that lost by 2 to Memphis on the road. This is a team that gave Alabama everything they wanted earlier, in SEC play last week. So, this Auburn team has got to really focus on making the most of their early opportunities in this offense, because Vanderbilt, under Jerry Stackhouse, he knows his team's limitations. He knows his team's weaknesses with talent. They're going to run really good stuff. Stackhouse is a former NBA coach, and he runs a really good offensive system. And what happens there is they like to hold on to the ball, take care of it, work the shot clock down. So for Auburn, it is, take care of the basketball, run good stuff, share your stuff early on, but make the most of your early offensive opportunities against what has been a struggling defense, because when Vanderbilt has the ball, they do a really good job at taking care of it, trying to limit possessions, trying to make this a closer game than it should be. I think Alabama is probably one of the first teams to tell you that they experienced that at Memorial Gym. Memorial Gym's also in Nashville. It's a weird place, and Auburn struggled there, over the last decade or so. So this is a game that even though Vandy's got a really rough record right now, you cannot, take them for granted whatsoever. And I think that's the key to what Auburn has done here in this run, is that you got to take one game at a time, because, like I said, this is an upset-heavy time in college basketball. Anybody can get it in any moment. And they know Vanderbilt is fully capable of giving them trouble, because they have for the last several seasons. Yeah,
all you got to do is look around and you see any highlight, and you're seeing teams that are putting ranked teams down or scaring them a lot. And Auburn doesn't want to fall into that category now that they've gotten all the way up to number 13. So let's change gears here just a little bit, Justin. You also do a great job of covering Auburn football. This is the 5th season in a row Auburn's had to replace both coordinators. Charles Kelly's been announced as the co-defensive coordinator, and Hugh Freeze has announced he'll call the plays on offense next season. But what else needs to happen for Auburn fans to feel confident heading into spring football and, more importantly, next season?
Yeah, I think the ultimate answer there is, what are they going to do in the passing game? Because they have had contact. They've reached out to transfer quarterbacks. They haven't gotten one. There was a lot of confidence early in Peyton Thorne, and obviously the Music City Bowl did not go well. They've got a really good wide receiver class coming in, obviously that star-studded group, but Auburn has got to get better through the air. That is what's held them back as a program these last several seasons. And you look, Auburn went 6-7 last year. The 6 wins, they were better than the other team at throwing the ball. The 7 losses, the other team was clearly better at throwing it. So you got to get that upgrade. They think that, Freeze taking more responsibility with this offense, bringing in these wide receivers, tighten up things on the offensive line. They got a really big transfer in Percy Lewis here last week. That could help. They're still looking at maybe upgrading at quarterback, whether that is bringing in a transfer or, have a guy like Walker White or Holden Garrett or Hank Brown, who played well in the Music City Bowl, really compete for this job. So, I think Auburn is going to be a better team on offense next season, because Freeze is going to be more comfortable. He's going to be calling plays. He's going to be doing that. but this is a team that knows they've got to get better through the air, and it can't just be, hey, let's trust the freshman receivers to get it done. They're going to need some other pieces to step up. They're going to need better quarterback play, and whether that it comes through Thorne or somebody else, they need to do that. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I thought Auburn had a solid foundation last season with their defense. Obviously, Ron Roberts parting ways, and going to Florida, to a place where he's been a lot more familiar with the coaching staff. They bring in Charles Kelly. I think he's going to be an ace recruiter for them. Obviously, somebody Auburn's wanted for a very, very long time. But yeah, who do they get at defensive coordinator? They've been linked to some guys, including a couple that are in the NFL right now, still coaching in the playoffs. So it's taken a little bit longer for Auburn to kind of seal up that coaching staff. But I do think ultimately, there's a good foundation on defense. Auburn fans are going to want to see a nice name, kind of get picked up as their coordinator. But ultimately, I just keep going back to the fact that Auburn's success in 2024 is going to hinge on how much better they can get through the air. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take some new faces. But yeah, I do think Hugh Freeze, to his credit, he has seen that what happened last year for Auburn is not going to be good enough, and they've got to get better on the field. Recruiting's great, but you got to start showing some progress on the field, and I think that's why he's taking more responsibility with this offense and being more hands-on this team next season.
You can find more of Justin's Auburn coverage year-round on the Auburn Observer. Justin Ferguson, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the game tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.